Welcome to the QTV News Desk. My name is Chitalu Chinsenge. The headlines. First Republican President Dr. Kenneth Kaunda is still admitted to the University Teaching Hospital, UTH. Lands Minister Jane Kapata says illegal trade in Mukula tree logs has been brought under control. And now the news in detail. Former President Dr. Kenneth Kaunda remains admitted to the University Teaching Hospital, UTH. Health Minister Chitalu Chilufias has told journalists that the former president will be discharged. But Special Assistant to the President for Press and Public Relations, Amos Chanda, in a statement says Dr. Kaunda's minders reported that the former president appeared weak, prompting Health Minister Chitalu Chilufya to deploy a specialist medical unit to check on him at his residence. Mr. Chanda says Dr. Kaunda, who was treated for a minor ailment, was rehydrated and judged well and stable enough to be discharged. Mr. Chanda, however, says the former president has been kept in hospital longer than necessary to take advantage of his admission and make him undergo a routine medical screen, after which he is expected to be discharged later. Lands Minister Jane Kapata says illegal trade in Mukula tree logs has been brought under control. Ms. Jane Kapata, however, states that officers will continue impounding trucks carrying Mukula logs, as well as arresting those involved in the illegal trade. She says the involvement of security wings has helped curbing the illegal trade in the Mukula logs. Ms. Kapata has reiterated that government will continue to protect the Mukula tree as a valuable national resource. The minister has since warned that security wings are still on alert.
For now, the trading of Mukula in this country, it's under control because the security wings moved in and assisted us. And just this morning, I did receive a report from Central Province that one of our former ministers was caught with a truck of Mukula. And I've just said, there's no one who is above the law. Whether minister, former MP, if you are found with Mukula, they must be arrested and also seize the vehicle. There are no two ways about it, no negotiation, and I don't even want to see that former minister, coming close to my office.
Vice President Enonge Wena says government has created a disaster loss database which will be used to capture information relating to economic loss. Ms. Wena says the database, which will be updated from time to time, will help capture would-be affected people in a disaster, damaged critical infrastructure, livelihood disruption, mortality, early warning systems, and investment in disaster risk management, among others. She has since directed the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, DMMU, National Coordinator Patrick Kangwa to constitute an internal ministerial technical committee to spearhead the monitoring of the National Disaster Risk Management Framework. Speaking during the validation workshop for the draft National Disaster Risk Management Framework in Lusaka today, Ms. Wiener says framework seeks to operationalize the Sendai framework, which will run from 2015 to 2030. In March 2015, the World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction adopted the Sendai framework for disaster reduction. Ms. Wiener has reiterated the goal of the National Disaster Risk Management Framework, which is to prevent new and reduce existing disaster risks in the country through the implementation of integrated and inclusive economic, structural, legal, social, health, cultural, among other risks. Ms. Wiener says with an integrated and inclusive approach, government will be able to prevent and reduce hazard exposure and vulnerability to disasters, increase preparedness for response and recovery, and ultimately strengthen resilience. She said this in a speech read on her behalf by the minister in the office of the Vice President, Sylvia Chalikosa. Health Minister Chitalu Chilufya says health should be considered as a matter of national security. Speaking during the Southern Africa Regional Collaboration Center of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Lusaka today, Dr. Chilufya says it is imperative that countries in the region seriously invest in the health of the populations. Dr. Chilufya states that lack of investment in the health of the people will hinder development in the region as there will be no health workforce to drive the social and economic agenda of the region and countries. He says it is against this background that the Zambian government has set up the Zambian National Public Health Constitution that will address all major public health issues and contribute substantially to improving the health of all Zambians. He says government is in the process of working on a legal framework that will be tabled before Parliament in line with the Constitution provision to formalize the establishment of the institute.
We want to ensure a fully fledged public health emergency response center. This we shall achieve within the next 3 to 4 years. Secondly, we want to ensure that we have an efficient and effective surveillance and disease intelligence system. This is extremely important. Like I said earlier on, health must be considered as a matter of national security. If we allow diseases to mess up the work or to mess up the population, we will not have the workforce to drive our socio-economic development agenda. So it is important that we look at health as a matter of security. With poor health systems, we will not have the workforce to work in the military, to work in the areas of agriculture, in education. So we must all begin by ensuring that we invest in the health of our populations. That's why it is important that we invest in very efficient and effective surveillance and intelligence systems. A robust and electronic information center shall be set up that shall provide for the timely and accurate data capture and management.
Speaking at the same event, Africa CDC Director Dr. John Nkengasong has called on African countries to harness the assets in the region efficiently to address health challenges. He has further urged African countries to use a multi-sectoral approach in addressing health issues in the region.
The question and challenge for us is, are we using those assets efficiently, which is the concept of RISNet, the Regional Integrated Surveillance and Laboratory Networks for Rapid Response. So I'll leave that up to the discussion, and I'll leave this question at the end of our conversation tomorrow to be able to respond to as to whether we are using efficiently the assets that we have in the region. Thirdly, we are looking at a multi-sectoral approach in addressing the challenges that I mentioned above. During the outbreak in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea, it was amazing to see that the UK government sent a military force, and the US government sent, I think, about 4,000 Marines to come to Liberia, Guinea, or Sierra Leone to help us build treatment centers and to treat our own people. We have to be able to sit here today and say it has to stop. That we have military, that if we work in a multi-sectoral approach, we could deploy our own militaries in case of need very quickly to build those treatment centers or any other needs as it arises. But we need a coordinated approach. We also need to be able to at least design programs that target them deliberately and proactively engage our militaries and say, look, in case of emergency, this is the role we expect you to play, and this will be equivalent to the role that the UK military and the US military had supported us with.
And World Health Organization country representative Dr. Custodia Mantlate says Africa is still facing challenges with communicable diseases that need concerted efforts from various stakeholders in the region. Ms. Mantlate has also noted the need to improve surveillance in the health systems in the country around the region.
It's very important that we can put aside some time to think about how to strategize our collaboration in Africa, a continent that is still challenged by communicable diseases, and with also with the epidemiological transition for non-communicable diseases that also needs our attention. We are signatories of the Sustainable Development Goals, as you all know, and for that we have a commitment for not leaving anyone behind. the Ebola crisis that was introduced in the previous speech in West Africa provided us with very, very important lessons. And I will just take the lesson of the need of improving surveillance in our continent. Because if you recall, when the Ebola crisis hit us, it took some time to respond. And that was because of many issues, and one of those is the weak health systems and weak surveillance systems. And we need really to improve on that. And we have a framework that is International Health Regulations 2005.
Higher Education Minister Professor Nkanduluwo has instructed the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board to consider students from rural areas in the disbursement of loan schemes. Professor Luwo says students in the rural areas are disadvantaged due to poor or limited information. She says this will give an opportunity to students in the rural areas who have not been applying because of a lack of information. Speaking during the inauguration of the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board in Lusaka today, Professor Luwo has also called for gender equality in the way the loans are distributed. She has also implored the board to be transparent or risk being labelled corrupt. Professor Luwo has further urged the board to create a revolving fund and grow funds in order to assist more vulnerable students who wish to pursue programs that are needed for the country to move the economic agenda.
Distribution of bursaries, so far, the majority that have been benefiting from bursaries are those that are on the line of rail. But this must stop. Or not only the people on the line of rail should be benefiting from support. We need to open doors to our people in the rural areas. Poverty is not something that anybody would like to have. And also, colleagues, let me tell you, you don't share poverty, you share wealth. So if you're going to leave the people in the areas poor, they will have nothing to share because you are not giving them an advantage to education. The only way people get out of the shacks of poverty is to expose them to education so that they can also make choices in life. So I'd like us to give quotas to the rural parts of Zambia in our allocation of loans, so that even children that are in Vubwi, those that are in Ikelenge, those who are in Zambezi, those who are in Kalabo, they can also access education.
Meanwhile, Professor Luwo has expressed fears that the board is bound to fail due to the number of permanent secretaries who have been appointed as board members owing to their busy schedules.
Board member, I was worried about the number of permanent secretaries that were sitting on this board. And the fears that I had have actually manifested. That we may have a lot of difficulties in terms of implementing that which we want to implement, because the permanent secretaries are so busy. And we will probably not have them appear for meetings. And what then will be happening is they'll be having proxies. So this meeting you have this proxy, another meeting, another proxy. So it actually affects continuity. And if I had been there when the board was being constituted, this is one thing that I would have tried to avoid. And this morning, this very, very important meeting where we are inaugurating, and it's very historic, the fears that I had have manifested. So we have the PS PSMD missing, we have PS Foreign Affairs missing, we have PS Finance, for that matter, missing. That, for me, is extremely worrying. So I want to say right from the onset that I may have to amend the constitution of this board, because it's a very, very important board, and I cannot afford for it not to function. It just has to function.
And Higher Education Loans and Scholarship Board Chairperson Penlop Mapoma has assured the minister that the distribution of loans will be done in a transparent manner. Mrs. Mapoma says the board will develop a code of conduct and a code of ethics that will define the way it will work in order to serve the students.
The issue of transparency and accountability in the operation of the Loans and Scholarship Board will be very key. These two factors will go a long way in enhancing and upholding the integrity of the Loans and Scholarship Board. Another thing that is close to my heart is to develop a code of conduct and a code of ethics that will define the way that we will work in the board. But this is in close alignment with the code of conduct that already exists, I'm sure, at Cabinet Office. But my thinking really was to have a board-specific code of conduct, because our work is slightly different from the general work of, from the general business of government. Another thing I would look forward to doing is to establish a mechanism of processing loans and scholarships expediently and efficiently in order to avoid unnecessary delays in disbursements. I'm confident that once the board meets, we should be able to put in place an immediate plan of action, which we can share with your office. Minister, one of the key activities we have to embark on quite quickly is a nationwide sensitization program. You did allude to the fact that we need a very comprehensive communication system, and under that is a nationwide sensitization program. This will be very important to manage expectations as we are coming now from the situations of disbursements and bursaries into this new quasi-government organization.
Ministry of Information and Broadcasting Service Director of Press and Media Development, Isaac Chipampe, has urged both the private and public media to tone down on political rhetoric and focus more on writing stories on challenges that affect Zambians. Mr. Chipampe says the media should bring out information that educates citizens, especially on sexual reproductive health. He notes that journalists in the country have focused more on trivial matters at the expense of issues that directly affect most vulnerable members of society. He says the media should create debate and discourse in issues that affect people, such as sex education and the distribution of contraceptives in both government and private schools. Mr. Chipampe states that Zambia has continued to struggle to reduce maternal mortality rate due to unsafe abortions, with the young people being the most affected in terms of accessing sexual and reproductive health services in the country. He says it is therefore incumbent upon both the public and private media to inform the public on such issues to promote maternal health. Mr. Chipampe says this at the breakfast meeting for news editors on sexual reproductive health and unsafe abortion in Zambia, organized by IPAS Zambia and Panos Institute of Southern Africa.
And write more on challenges that personally affect the people, and bring out information that may educate as citizens, especially on their health. I'm sure you agree with me that the media now has interpreted news to mean politics, or vice versa, which is unfortunate. I think every morning when we are writing our diaries, the first thing we think about is politics. What has this one said? Who has insulted who, and so forth? But the news out there is buried inside the newspapers, or not even covered at all. So let me ask, for instance, why stories on health rarely appear on front pages of newspapers or headline broadcasting news. Speaking as a journalist, such stories, as non-appealing to some as they appear to be, affect so many of our citizens. The media should create debate and discourse on issues that affect people. For instance, issues to do with sex education, or the distribution of condoms and contraceptives in schools. The media should raise questions about abortion, the rights of the unborn babies, and the rights of rape victims. Each time I'm going for work, I listen to the news, the local news, and then tune into BBC. And sometimes you see those disparities where international news focus so much on these issues and present them so attractively that you can't avoid that kind of news. They bring out debates about issues to do with, for instance, prisoners, female prisoners and their babies in prison. You know, the rights of babies. The babies are not accused, but they end up in prison because their mothers have committed crimes. Those are the issues that really should be debated and tackled by the media. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm aware that this meeting will also discuss unsafe abortion. And I think this is what is anchoring the meeting today. Zambia continues to struggle to reduce maternal mortality due to unsafe abortion.
And panel's executive director, Lillian Kiefer, has implored duty bearers to equitably provide public and reproductive health services to Zambians. Ms. Kiefer says the media should also hold duty bearers accountable on their actions because they are a major link between them and the Zambian people.
We believe as panels that if we carefully address the root causes of underdevelopment, we will be able to make progress. But that this requires considered efforts by all of us who are here and others who are also not here. So that's our motivation. And moving on, we have 4 thematic areas. We still work in media development and ICTs, which is focusing on looking at how best the media can constructively participate in driving socioeconomic development. I think most of us that are here already know about this aspect of our work. And I know some who knew it before I actually knew panels. We also are working on environment and natural resource management, which is looking at strengthening poor people's capacities to adapt to climatic changes and also demand accountability in the governance of natural resources. We're working on democracy and good governance, which is looking at increasing citizen participation in governance processes for participatory development interventions. And we also are working in public health, which is looking at advocating for equitable access to health services and influencing equity and accountability in health delivery systems.
The Opposition Patriots for Economic Progress, PEP, has expressed optimism that the dialogue meeting being spearheaded by the Zambian Conference of Catholic Bishops, ZCCB, between President Edgar Lungu and the UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema will not only address existing political tension, but will also address its underlying causes. PEP President Sean Tembo has since advised the ZCCB to ensure that the dialogue only involves the 2 political parties. Mr. Tembo says this is because the political tension in the country is currently facing is between the ruling PF and the United Party for National Development. Mr. Tembo has stated that in order for the proposed dialogue to succeed, the starting point is to have a few parties involved. Mr. Tembo has since commended the Catholic bishops for meeting the incarcerated UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema at Mukobeko Correctional Facility to kick-start the dialogue.
Is that the dialogue is going to focus not only on the current political tension, but try to address the underlying causes of the tension as well. Because if the dialogue only addresses the current tension, then very soon we shall be back on the table to try and address the tension because it will arise again. The other issue is with regard to who the parties to the dialogue are going to be. Is it going to be between President Lungu and Mr. Hichilema? Or is it going to be between the Patriotic Front and the UPND? Or is it going to be between the government and the UPND? So it is very important, in our view, to try and define who the parties to the dialogue should be. And then in terms of our opinion, we believe that the fewer the parties to the dialogue, the better. Because when there are too many parties to the dialogue, if there are too many people involved, then it risks basically losing its focus. So our expectation would be that the dialogue should be between President Lungu and Mr. Hichilema as UPND leader. And then it should be facilitated by some representatives of the Zambia Council for Catholic Bishops, maybe 3 representatives in total, so that we can have a smaller group of people who basically dialogue.
Eastern Province Permanent Secretary Chanda Kasolo has encouraged farmers in the province to consider exporting their maize to neighboring countries for them to be able to realize profit from their produce. Mr. Kasolo says it is devastating to note that farmers in the province are selling their produce to briefcase buyers at between 40 and 50 kwacha per 50 kilogram bag of maize. He says it is for this reason that government has lifted the export ban so that the farmers can also benefit from their labor. Mr. Kasolo states that the province has this year recorded high yields not only of maize but other cash crops such as soybeans and cotton.
Relating to maize, and we have bumper harvests of maize, bumper harvests of 5 other products. We have been number 1 in 6 products this year, namely maize, tobacco, groundnuts, beans, soya. We are really looking very good. But to every silver lining, there is also a downside. And the downside is that because we've produced so much, some of the prices have come down of the products. For instance, soya is selling at about half what it was selling last season. The maize itself, the farmers, those that are desperate to sell quickly, are selling to briefcase carriers who are buying bulk, and they're buying at anything between 45 and 55 kwacha per 50 kg of maize. As you know, last year the government price was 75 per 50 kg of maize. This year we don't yet know. The Minister of Agriculture is still trying to work out the price. They normally do that once they know the maize is dry enough, the moisture content is low. Because once they announce the price, then it's expected that the Food Reserve Agency, FRA, will start buying.
Information and Broadcasting Services Minister Kampamba Mlenga says government has approved a film policy which will help promote arts and job creation for young people. Ms. Mlenga says her ministry is also scheduled to establish training institutions in some parts of the country to promote arts, especially with the transition of the country from analog to digital broadcasting. She states that the developments are accumulating of government's thorough discussions with various stakeholders at various levels of the needs to develop the country's film industry. Guided by the film policy, she says her ministry has since extended an olive branch to the film industry players to play their role in ensuring that the dream to achieve a thriving film industry is achieved. Ms. Mlenga says her ministry welcomes and applauds the efforts of filmmakers in the country, especially those working under difficult conditions. The minister says as the country rolls out the digital terrestrial broadcasting network, there will be a multiplicity of channels, hence the need for more content generation by the players.
Through our national broadcaster and through the private sector also is to come up with talents, and then they are sponsored nationwide. Maybe a dance talent, traditional dance talent, so that we can have participation from all the stakeholders. So for us, we're just trying to get our ground, but we're getting there because as a ministry, when we put up all these transmitters and we start up with provincial broadcasting studios, I'm sure this is information that will get to the grassroots. But in the meantime, we don't want to be caught off guard. We have this state-of-the-art infrastructure, and we have no content, we have no local artists. That is why in the next month, as we begin the implementation of the film policy, we will begin through these associations to begin to have presence. We don't want only the people along the line of rail to benefit. We want even those people in the far-flung areas of our country to also be beneficial. Who knows? Hollywood will just be right at our doorstep, but because we have not harvested this talent. So we won't know. And from time immemorial, the film industry has just been trekking Lusaka Copper Belt, Lusaka Copper through.
The Road Development Agency, RDA, has dismissed assertions that some newly constructed roads that were washed away by the rains during the last rainy season were as a result of poor material used and construction in the awarding of contracts. RDA Director Public Relations and Corporate Affairs Lois Saili says investigations by the engineers revealed that the roads were washed away because of the heavy rains, which was a natural occurrence. Ms. Saili has explained that the washing away of the roads had nothing to do with the quality of the materials used by the contractors. She has disclosed that the repairing of the damaged and washed away roads in the various parts of the country is still underway, while in some areas the works have been concluded. Ms. Saili has reiterated the RDA's commitment to ensuring that the country has good road infrastructure, as this will contribute to positive economic growth.
We have had washaways throughout the country, and I'm sure you the media, we are following these issues. Like on Mamba Matoka in Southern Province, that road we have since reinstated, and it is open to traffic. That was flash floods that actually washed away a section of that road, and even the issue of Luangwa Feira, I'm sure you were able to follow that also. That also was a natural occurrence, where there was a movement in the mountains. I'm sure you heard the explanations from the Geological Survey Department, who are experts in these things. They did provide a technical explanation to what happened there. So it had nothing totally to do with the quality of works or materials. I think there was a natural movement in the mountain. And there also we did the initial works to reinstate the road so that we open it up to the public, but the works are still ongoing. We have to do a lot of work so that we bring the road to its original standard. So those works are still ongoing. And other parts of the country where we recorded washaways, our regional managers, they always submit these requests for emergencies, because we treat these as emergencies, and monies are released to them. So some of the works have been completed, others could be ongoing. So we treat each case on its own merit, but by and large, and I think just speaking in very general terms, we have been dealing with the emergencies.
An Indian medical expert in diabetes has offered to work with Zambia in curbing diabetes in women and children by offering free training to Zambia medical personnel. SA Health Director Usha Sriram says the exercise will be executed at no cost to the Zambian government, as her non-governmental organization Diabetes in Women Worldwide Awareness Advocacy Action Strategies, DWAS, will sponsor the advocacy program. Dr. Sriram observes that diabetes has proven to be very aggressive in women and children, leading to the International Diabetes Federation declaration, the theme for the 2017 International Diabetes Day, as Women in Diabetes. The medical expert has since called for increased awareness activities ahead of the World Diabetes Day, which is commemorated on November 14th annually. And Zambia's High Commissioner to India, Judith Kabijimpanga, has praised the medical expert for choosing to work with Zambia out of 54 countries in Africa. Mrs. Kabijimpanga notes that diabetes is a silent killer which needs intervention, especially through physical activity. She says she will write to the Ministries of Foreign Affairs, Health and other line ministries so that the advocacy program by DWAS can succeed in Zambia.
And why we chose to focus on women is diabetes is, though it's equal in men and women in the numbers, it's very, very different and aggressive and challenging in women. More heart problems. A woman with diabetes compared to a woman without has 7 to 10 times more heart disease, and like 45% more than men.
Diabetes is a silent killer, and when it's creeping into our homes, sometimes we are unaware. And your advocacy and awareness program is much appreciated. And so to this effect, after we hear from you, our intention as a mission is to ensure that we link you up with the stakeholders.
As we end the news, a recap of headlines. First Republican President Dr. Kenneth Kaunda is still admitted to the University Teaching Hospital, UTH. Landsmaster Jen Kapata says illegal trade in Mukuli tree logs has been brought under control. That's all we had for you in the news. You can visit our website www.qtvzambia.com for more news. My name is Gisela Chinsenge. Pleasant viewing.